This is Robert Kraft, and I'm your host on SNN.Network. And joining me today is Gary Medved. He is the president and CEO of Mace. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is MACE. Gary, good to see you. Thank you for joining me today.
And good to be here. Thank you for having me, Robert. Appreciate it.
It's great to have you on. So to get started here, let's get an overview of and history of Mace, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Mace was started back in 1970 when the first product was developed. It was a chemical-based spray. Back in the late 60s, it became a brand, a company back in 1970. But it was only primarily used by law enforcement officials. And then in the late 80s is when it was allowed to be sold to the consumer market. But by then it had already evolved into pepper spray and the chemical elements were taken out. And then probably around 90, 91, somewhere along there, the company started venturing off and getting more into the security environment, like security monitors, thinking like ADT type of companies like that. They made a number of acquisitions. They were in electronics, monitors, security companies. At one point, they even owned 50 car wash and truck wash places. Okay, so you're talking about getting off the rails a little bit from the brand. And it wasn't until, and the company was based in Vermont at that point. And then in the early 2000s, they brought it to Cleveland, Ohio, here in Midtown. We're about 2 miles outside of downtown Cleveland. And the company started shedding these non-essential assets, that weren't germane to what they were trying to accomplish. And unfortunately, throughout the history, other brands had come in. Of course, when you're known for pepper spray, you're not focusing on pepper spray. Others are like, hey, this is right for the opportunity. Let's go for it. And so that invited in a number of competitors. Some are around today, some have folded. But over the last few years, we really got out of all the other businesses that the company was involved with, and now we're strictly non-lethal personal safety products. And we have a product line from personal alarms all the way up to stun guns and pepper spray and pepper gels in between. Okay, so that's pretty much a 50-year history wrapped up in a minute.
That was a pretty good job. I think, there might be a new show there, 50-year history in 1 minute.
Yeah.
But I digress. It's interesting because I know growing up and, look, I haven't been on this earth for that long, but I haven't been on earth for 50 years, but, in my 32 years, I know of Mace as pepper spray. I know the brand. I mean, I think a lot of people my age and others, just when they think pepper spray, they think Mace. So what efforts is the company taking to capitalize on your brand awareness and recognition?
Okay. To begin, we got to step back a little bit because part of what came with that 50-year history was the fact that people started calling the product inside of our canister Mace. And Mace is actually the brand name. It's not the product at all. It is the brand name. So there's a huge awareness / educational campaign that has to take place to educate the public out there that Mace is a brand and pepper spray is what's inside the can. So we've had consumers over the years call us up and complain that, I bought this can of Mace, it's not working, and here it turns out to be a competitor's can. And they're saying, no, it's Mace inside, it's just a different brand name. And, we got to educate them, no, Mace is the brand, it's pepper spray that you bought. So there is that whole campaign that has to go on, and that's a monumental task in itself. After 50 years, you ask the average consumer, what is Mace? And they're going to tell you, oh, that's the stuff that the police spray on people when they're trying to arrest them. So there's that. Now, the good that comes with that is everybody's heard of the name, okay? And we have brand recognition and brand awareness, even though they don't know it's quite the brand, but they think that it's the stuff inside the can. When we make presentations to buyers at the retail level, one of the things I like to show them is a montage of video clips. It's almost like pop culture-ish, you know, Kill Bill Volume 2, okay, Bono, the lead singer for U2 in concert, a number of movies, comedians, they all use Mace, okay? It's funny, you know what this is? This is a can of Mace. And I'm cringing at the TV thinking, no, it's not a can of Mace. But then again, you know, it's Kill Bill Volume 2, and how many millions of people saw that and heard that line, okay? And you know what? You don't get that with other brands out there, you know? And we have never paid for a plug, even a shameless plug in any Hollywood movie or comedian routine. So the awareness and the for the brand and the recognition is out there. We need to educate them on it is the brand and it's not what's in the can. And so that's one of the primary goals of ours this year. Is we're not going to get it solved this year, but we are going to make inroads to getting that education out there and bringing people along in our digital marketing campaign.
Right. I mean, look, it's a good problem to have, right? As you said,
It certainly is.
Right.
Certainly is.
So you did. So let's. I want to follow up real quick on that. You said that you do have a couple initiatives that you're working on. You know, what are they? What's the plans?
Well, as I mentioned at the conference, okay, last week, earlier in the year we had a consumer insight survey done by a nationally known firm who happens to be here in Cleveland, and what we got back was like 85 pages of data. And so scouring through this data, you know, there's always those top 3 or 4 items that really stick out. You know, every slide that you look at, you're seeing a common thing. But then there's other ancillary items that come up. And what we learned in going through that the results from the survey is we have powerful brand recognition, but there's still that confusion. So what we're doing is we're designing campaigns now going forward that highlight, or I should say, address the issues that were brought up in the Consumer Insight Survey. And, you know, whether it's a product-based thing or an education and awareness. And we have a plan right now that we'll be rolling out this quarter. The initial stages are already taking place. You know, we got people in pocket, you know, whether they're inside or outside. We have kind of like a roadmap. We just got to tweak and detail and lock in some of the areas. But I think going forward with the initiatives that we have and how we're looking at doing this, by the end of this year, if you take an A/B test, you know, from right now till the end of the year, you're going to see increased awareness, you're going to see increased education, and people are going to know more about the brand, okay, and what we stand for as opposed to Mace that's in a can, all right?
Right. So then, you know, from an investor perspective, you know, would you say that is the main potential driver of growth for you guys, is to continue to really push the brand and selling your traditional product lines, or are there some other things in the works from what you can tell us?
Well, I think whenever you get into a products-based company, which we are right now, okay, you have to sell product. Now, what I'm embarking on is an effort here I really want to capture the emotional side of people, okay, and not make it like we're selling you a product. We really want to tap into that side of brand awareness, you know, really being tied to our brand. I think as we go forward, we're strong in retail right now, brick and mortar retail. And by no means are we ever going to abandon brick and mortar retail and focus directly, you know, direct to consumer or all the other e-commerce sites out there. But I think there's a multi-pronged play here. Brick and mortar has a separate set of guidelines, if you will. People walk in, they have the intent, or they walk by it as an impulse buy, and I'm going to buy that. I'm going to grab that. I need that. Whereas on the digital side, you have those intent buyers. They're out there looking on Google. They're looking on Amazon, or they come directly to mace.com. They have the intent to buy. Then you have these other consumers out there. They don't think about personal safety. They don't think about personal safety products, let alone the brands what's different between the brands. So I think when we look at our future, you know, in terms of the real growth, the growth is going to come on multiple fronts, but it's going to be driven by the awareness and the education and linking the Mace brand to all things non-lethal personal safety product. Okay, so that could be the personal alarm, the spray gel, or the stun gun. That there's a content that needs to be developed, and we have the the inner workings right now in place, and we know how we're going to go about it, and we know what we're going to do, where we're going to do it, how we're going to do it. It's just a matter of execution now going forward. But it's going to be that content through social media, through other online sites, through our blog, through Google search, that's really going to start introducing people to personal safety. Okay. Now, if you ask me which channel is going to grow the fastest, I mean, I'd be a fool to say, retail's brick and mortar is going to grow faster than the e-commerce side. But on the flip side, you look at all these other brands out there that started DTC, whether it's the Casper mattresses or Warby Parker, doesn't matter. They're all starting brick and mortar now. They're going into brick and mortar, because, clearly 80 to 90% of the people are still buying stuff off the shelf, not the electronic shelf. So I think we have a lot of opportunity on a lot of fronts going forward, but it is going to start with the content and making that emotional connection with people for non-lethal personal safety products. I want them to walk into a retail store and ask, where is your personal safety products? Where are your personal safety products? These are down aisle 3 on the left. You don't get that today.
For sure. Well, another question I had, and you brought this up earlier, how it really has to do with the competitive landscape. I mean, you mentioned earlier how you're getting calls saying, "Hey, why is my Mace not working?" And it's a competitor's product. Again, a great problem to have, of course.
Yeah.
So what does the company's competitive landscape now look like as it exists today?
Well, interestingly enough, they fall into 2 categories. One is, the one strong competitor, if you will, is positioned as an opening price point. Okay. Mace, we don't play in that sandbox, so to speak. Okay. We're a premium brand. We're the original. We're the authentic. The innovation is behind us. The brand awareness is behind us. We're going to be doing a lot more innovating going forward. So we really don't have, a lot of interest to go play at the opening price point with the Mace brand. Okay. So there's that competitive side. The other side is that of private label, okay, where there are a number of brands out there, okay, but they're not making, okay. We may be making it, somebody else may be making it and putting it in their can. Now, that's not a business that I take lightly. I recognize not everybody wants 100% of Mace product on every shelf in America, okay? And, I'm from the old school. I like competition, okay? I appreciate competition. I think it keeps us sharp. It keeps us on our toes, keeps us awake at night, but it also brings us to work the next morning. So when I look at the competitive landscape out there, there's nobody in our premium space but us. There's opening price point, and then there's a lot of other off brands, if you will, that are being filled by us and maybe one other filler out there doing the majority of the filling operations. Okay. So, but again, I want to use our brand and our, going forward, the innovation side to further separate us from the pack.
Got it. And then what's your background? I mean, how'd you come into all this?
I'm an engineer from Penn State, Nittany Lions. And way back when Joe Paterno still walked on water, that's how long ago. So I'm a degreed mechanical engineer and made a couple stops along the way. Picked up my MBA back in the late 90s. And I was probably an engineer for 5 years designing tire building machinery for Goodyear Tire and Rubber here in Akron, Ohio. I think I was there 5 years and then finally realized what I went to school for. And it hit me, as an engineer, you're formally trained to solve problems. That's what 4 years of engineering school does for you. And I'm looking at it like, I'm designing this. Yeah, the designs are cool. You get a couple patents here and there. But at the end of the day, you're like, I can be doing so much more than this. So I went out, got my MBA, went to another company, became president there, tried to buy it a couple of times. They wouldn't sell it. So I left, bought my own company. Ran that, had a good exit out of that. Then I took a left-hand turn in my career and opened a restaurant, of all things. So I designed this sandwich press to to make these sandwiches that you would make around a campfire called pie iron sandwiches. Patented that press, had the restaurant for 5 years. When the lease was up, that was when mall traffic was starting to die, going back about 5 years ago. I mean, really falling off the cliff. And so then I just took a year off, was home with the dog, and then this opportunity came up. It was perfect timing. I was getting antsy to get out of the house. At the same time, there seemed to be a need here, and I talked to the new majority owners at the time. It was a family fund, and it seemed like it was a good fit. And I came on board in January of 19, and it's been nothing but fun, challenging. I'm not going to lie. Okay, that first year was pretty rough. After I walked in here and learned everything that I learned, it's like, okay, we got some homework to do here. So we got that all behind us. Late last year, by the third quarter, we started to see that everything taking hold. Fourth quarter was good for us. This Friday, we'll be releasing our earnings for Q1 of this year. And so I'm pretty pumped up about the future.
Very good to hear. And so real quick, before I get to a couple of my last questions here, we have to address the 1,000-pound elephant in the room, that is COVID, coronavirus. Has the company been operations or just anything been affected from this current pandemic, or how has the company responded to it?
Well, from a company perspective, you have three areas that could be impacted, okay, with something like COVID-19. You have, of course, first and foremost, your employees and their safety. And then you have your suppliers at one end, and then you have your customers at the other end. So there's that three-link chain, okay, that all have to work together, okay. It doesn't do much good to have all the employees here if somebody's going to get sick and your customers are closed down. It doesn't do much good if the customers are ordering and the suppliers are shut down. And it doesn't do much good if they're both shut down and we're here by ourselves. So I looked at it holistically, just the whole picture. We've been keeping very close tabs with our supply chain. We had a couple bumps here, but we haven't had any craters in the road that stopped traffic. And we just brought a new procurement manager on about 4 months ago who's dialed into that really tightly, day by day, hour by hour. He's probably losing more sleep than I am. From our perspective internally, a number of the office staff are working from home. There's a few of us here. We've been coming in all through, but social distancing, like I mentioned at the conference, we invented it, okay? Mace did. So we're really spread out here in the audience. There's a lot of space here for just 3 or 4 people. Down in the plant, we have people separated down in the plant. We have all our hygiene, our hand sanitizer, disinfectants. Wash your hands. We held company meetings and explained everything to everybody. They're separated down in the plant, the 6 or 8 foot guidelines. So I look at it, the employees' health and safety is paramount, and we've done a really good job. We haven't had any issues at all in-house, knock on wood. And I think we may have made the turn nationally on this thing. I don't know, but everybody's going to approach with caution here coming out, because Ohio is one of the states that are going to start reopening next Monday. And they, the governor put out his guidelines. We're in lockstep. We're going to be sending out an email to all the employees who are working from home. We'll have company meeting here, so we'll be set for it. Okay. And then there's the customer side. We're in retail, so we saw a pickup on the e-commerce side. Retail was impacted here. We had one of our major customers shut down for a month. They're opening yet, I believe next Monday they'll be opening back up. And then the retail foot traffic and how it's been impacted with the red arrows and 6 foot distance. People tend to walk into a retail store and only get what they absolutely need and get back out of the store. It's not a fun, hey, let's walk around and look at this experience anymore. It's like, let's go get that and get out and take these face masks off and go home. So we've been holding our own. We've been doing pretty decently. We haven't had any internal issues, a couple bumps on the supply chain side and a couple bumps on the retail side. But for the most part, when you hear 26 million people unemployed and everybody here is gainfully employed, I feel good about that. When you hear about companies closing their doors and may not be opening back up, and I look at, you know, we're really fortunate to be operating like we are in the space we are. So we don't have to deal with some of these really ugly events going on out there. And I'm really happy. And I'll be truthful with you, Bobby, we got a lot of temps working here right now because of the workload. Okay, so all things told, you know, there's impact, but it's being managed, and we're fortunate to be in the position we're in right now.
Absolutely. So then from what you can tell us, what are the 1 to 2 things investors should look out for now moving forward?
Well, last year, you know, we spent the better part of last year right-sizing the organization, right people in the right seats, and very tight, prudent cost control. Okay, that's something that gets a lot of attention. It's going to get even more attention going forward. Everything that we want to do to grow, I want to finance from operations. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that wants to take on a boatload of debt. I don't want to go out there and borrow money if I don't need to. I'm looking at it, hey, we got to find the money in-house to do this. We got to find the money in-house to do this. And, you know, for corporations out there, a lot of that money is sitting right there. You know, you just got to look at the way you're doing things in terms of efficiency, process improvement, waste, expense, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of money sitting on everybody's income statement. So I think the first thing that they're going to notice as we go forward, regardless of what the top line looks like, you know, this year, next quarter, next year, they're always going to see an improving cost structure in this organization. Okay. And then number 2 is the growth element. Okay. We have a huge opportunity, as I explained at the conference, where you have all these spheres out there, the home sphere, the business sphere, the social sphere. And I think when I look at those and marry that up with the consumer insight research that we've gotten and a lot of the new products that we're brainstorming, I think there's a lot of opportunity for new business growth going forward. And by that, as I had that chart up at the conference, you know, you got your new and existing products, your new and existing customers. Let's start matching all these pieces together, okay? So we may have a customer here we've been selling to for 15, 20 years, but a product that we've had for 10 and they never bought it, okay? That's new business when that customer of 15 years starts buying a product that we've had for 10 years, new business. And my goal is 25% of our overall sales in the next couple of years are coming from business that did not exist 12 months prior. Now that's a goal for me. It'll be laid out for the organization, but we got some more work to do to get to that, okay? But that's where I want to head. So they're going to see the top line grow, but I think more importantly in that top line is going to be new business growth, driving it, okay? We can get product hanging on a hook at a retailer, but at the end of the day, I can't force people to go in there and buy that product, okay? That'll come from all the content that we get out there. But I think in terms of new business, we can add retailers, we can add hooks, we can add new products. So they'll see a top line growth coming. But like I said, the one thing you're going to notice, you know, going forward as a hallmark of mine is we're going to have tight cost control going forward.
And where can audience go and find more information about Mace?
Mace.com. Mace.com, you can get into investor relations. It has all the information there. Learn more about our products, check out our blog. If you're a parent, has a son or daughter leaving home this fall for college, provided colleges are open this fall, okay, we have some nice content on there for, you know, kids leaving home for the first time, to campus safety, dating safety, you know, for young women or just going out for the first time. Even if they're under the age of 18 and can't own pepper spray, there's information there, okay? And you're going to see more of that coming out in the future.
Perfect. Gary, thank you so much for doing this today, and good luck, stay safe, and I look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate having me on. Enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.